Hello, and welcome to the Hannover Fair here at the Litmus booth. Happy to welcome you here, talking today about what can we do with AI and Gen AI in production operations. That's a joint presentation here, Avanade and Litmus, so I'm very happy and thank you for having me here. What I will tell you today is a little bit what's the potential that AI, and especially generative AI, brings into production operations. And what are the solutions to really bring that to life, and not just on a pilot, but really bring that to life at scale, because that's what we all want to do. So first, give me a chance to introduce myself. So I'm Marco Weisse. I'm the global lead for smart manufacturing at Avanade, Industry X. So we're the team bringing Industry 4.0 solutions to our clients. And I'm with the company now in 2 years, being in this industry in more than 20 years. So we're working quite closely together with Microsoft and other partners. So just to give you a brief introduction on Avanade, just in case you do not know us that well. I mean, we're a joint venture between Microsoft and Accenture, mainly owned by Accenture. But I think it's really bringing the power of those two powerhouses together. And from us, from Avanade, we're especially bringing investments into solutions based on Microsoft technology, specifically now today talking about AI and Gen AI solutions. So looking a little bit to what's happening in the market and what's driving the market and what's driving us and on the solution side, there's a lot of challenges that we currently see. On the one side, you have an aging population, which is also infecting a lot our employees, especially in the factories, right? So if you see the numbers, there's 2.6 million of the baby boomers are retiring over the next years. With those baby boomers, it's not just people going, but there's a lot of experience that we currently have on the shop floor, on the solutions, on the machines, which are actually leaving the company. At the same time, I mean, all the shop floor workers also expect actually to get, on the one side, more and more work to do and more complexity. On the other side, they also expect better working environments. Then, on the other side, looking a little bit into how a lot of manufacturers work. And unfortunately, here on the shop floor side, we still see a lot of manual work, a lot of Excel work, a lot of different data solutions and silos. So I think it's quite a difficult environment, specifically if we think about how we want to leverage data and especially AI. Now, what we're doing from Avanade's side, we're not doing something completely different from what it's done now, but what we are realizing on the shop floor, the typical lean manufacturing, world-class manufacturing programs, they're starting to plateau. So which means actually you're still putting a lot of effort in, but the value that you're getting out it's not really going the same direction. So what I think, we don't want to change that, and I think lean and world-class manufacturing is still continuing. It's quite important, but what we want to do and what we need to do now is to actually bring that to the next level. And what we need to do, or what we need to do this, is we need data. Once we get data, then of course we can leverage AI. And that's what we have started with many clients in the last years. So of course, you start to get data to really generate insights of what's happening on the shop floor. So that means like you get some real-time plant performance, and the first step, dashboards, right? So it's really getting inside what's happening, not what happened last week, but what's happening now. What's happening with the machines? How's my line performing? Where do I have issues actually with the yield, or is there any waste? So that's the first step, what we're doing. But the next step, of course, we want to do some additional sensing. So you want to get what's going on. Specifically, if there's some anomalies happening or something going wrong, then of course you want to have notifications that you want to give to your shop floor workers. Going one step further, of course, it's how you're actually predicting things that are happening. Predicting anomalies, but also then predicting what to do and giving an advice. And I think that's quite important. Giving suggestions and advice to the worker what to change. And this is where AI really comes into game to say like, okay, what can I do to optimize. How do I have to change parameters? And that's especially for something where you need to balance between different parameters and you try to find the right balance. And that's quite tricky for people. Now, if you have these experts, right, who are doing this since 20 years, they know that. But once those guys are leaving or there's changes on the machinery, then of course you need a technical advice how to help it. So that's why we are using data. And of course, what we are aiming to, this is what we are calling closed loop optimization. Giving advice to the worker, to the operator, what to change is one step. And I think it's a good one. But even we are going further. And with some clients, we already have realized that really closing the loop and giving the not just the suggestion advice, but giving really the change into the PLC and saying make it change automatically. Of course, that's a big step, because you're taking the human, the person out of the loop and really doing automation. But I think that's the step where we really get value, because it's about speed that you can gain, and it's also getting automatism in, and where you can have a lot of value coming also from reducing the number of people that you need to operate on the one side, but also really increasing utilization, increasing yield. And then now with generative AI coming into the game, now there's an additional step coming, and we say like ask the expert experience, because today the frontline worker, he might get an information what he should do, but it's still receiving information and then see what he can do. With generative AI and this manufacturing co-pilot, we're actually enabling the shop floor worker to ask questions about what's going on the shop floor. And with asking in natural language, and in the background, the co-pilot actually using AI technology, we're giving a completely new experience to the frontline worker to interact with data. Data that he today only maybe gets from a dashboard, then he can ask about it. He can, of course, ask what's on the dashboard, but he can ask also, I see there's a drop in my OE. What is the reason behind? So what's happening in the background, co-pilot will analyze the data and will tell him something. Then he can ask again, going deeper and deeper. So that actually enables a frontline worker who's really on the operation side, interacting with data without knowing anything about AI. And we're also giving him the chance to really use AI without being really exposed to any AI functionality. And he doesn't know to understand, because that's what's happening in the background, right? So that's the way where we are going. So with this kind of smart manufacturing with generative AI, where you having a specific co-pilot for manufacturing. So what does it bring in terms of value? I already talked about that. We're talking about OEE, we're talking about machine efficiencies. So we see some significant value which can be driven by AI and generative AI. So this is something which we have experienced with different clients, and I think that's quite significantly. And of course, it's different from client to client where there is a real potential. But normally clients know exactly where they have the weaknesses, where they have their strengths, and where we should focus on. But I think that's a way to go, and it's really the potential. And to give you a feeling about, what does this kind of co-pilot means, and how does it actually how does it used by an operator? I would like to show you a video so that you get a feeling on, okay, how does an operator, or in our case now it will be like a quality manager, how would a quality manager use manufacturing co-pilot, and how does it actually change the way how they're enabling? So I'm showing you a quick video. If you are interested in a demo, then you can later after the presentation come over to the booth of Microsoft and you can see the real demo. But that's giving you really an idea of where we are trying with the co-pilot. Now we're starting the video. Okay. Okay, since the sound is a little bit too low, so I will explain a little bit to you what you see. So this is Jane. I introduced her. So she's a quality manager working in an automotive company. And of course, she has a quite stressful job, right? Because, quality in automotive, that's something quite difficult. And every single mistake there can actually lead to a recall on the one side, or on the other side, they have maybe a lot of things that they need to change. So actually, she's now using Copilot, so asking the system questions about something that they have figured out in their quality area. And since she asked what was happening, and then she's asking what was the supplier of this part, which was actually faulty, and then getting back an answer from the system. And now she's asking Copilot again to help her to fix. So on the one side, she was asking what's behind it, and then she figured out, for example, that the reason for that was that there was material too long on the store, which is one of the things that she figured out with asking Copilot. Of course, she can do this as well to looking at all the different data sources that she got. But now she's using Copilot to get her the data, and especially data which is coming from a lot of different systems today. As you know, I mean, you get a failure, you get an issue, then of course you're starting to look for it. And if you do a digital root cause analysis in your data, then you know how much time that takes. Now for her it was easy. Now she's happy and she has time actually to get her son from school, because that's what we are enabling her, get more time, or reducing the time that she needs to do for her work. Now, I mean, with all of you knowing how does your systems look like, then, I mean, you will tell, yeah, that's nice, but it's not working on my side, because, you know, the data that she was using is actually in 5 different silos. There's no way to get it together, or I need 3 years project. Yes, I think that's one of the big topics that we see at the moment, as if you want to really use AI and Gen AI, you need to look at your data challenges at the moment. Yeah, and that's something that we need to solve. On the one side, you have a lot of fragmented data being in different systems, in different silos. You have different formats. I mean, coming from all those different sources, maybe some of your sources, especially on the shop floor side, not being connected. I mean, that's why I'm here, because especially getting OT data from all your different machines on the shop floor, I mean, that's what Litmus is helping for. And we're using this to enable Copilot. So that's the important part. So we want to solve this issue. And one piece of that for us is Litmus, where we are using them. But there's a little more than just capturing the data and transforming and analyzing data coming from the shop floor, because we need to match this data with other data sources. Because you have seen in the video before, she was talking about, I mean, what's the order? Okay, you need some data from your ERP system. You might need to have data from your MES, from your quality systems. So that's something that we need to bring together, and then having a system which is able to work with this kind of data. So what we help manufacturers to do is, on the one side, to unify the data. So bringing that together in one big data estate with having a data model, and you will see that in the next slide. We're building together with Microsoft on ISO 95, which is industry standard, and we're building on a graph solution based on ISO 95. I think that is a very, very important step, and something which was missing, because everybody was building his own graphs, his own solutions. Now we're getting to a more structured and a standardized way. And I think that's quite valuable as a first step to unify the data. Now, if you want to have this data unified, it's not just about getting all your data pumped into any data lake. It's about contextualizing the data. So on the one side, you need to know where does the data come from, which line does it belong to, which machine. So you need to take it and transform it. But then on the next side, you also need to contextualize it more. So where does it belong to? So that you can really reuse the data, and then to go the next step to democratize the data. Because it's not about having all data in one source, but you need to make it available to the people, and available in a way that they understand what I need to. So if a quality engineer want to use the data to make some analysis or to build some AI applications on top, he need to easily find the right data, what's relevant to him. And we want to make that available to really scale it, and not just do one use case by use case. So that's what we are doing. So unifying the data, contextualizing it, and democratizing the data to make it available to the people who need it. And what's the solution, right? I said we have launched something together with Microsoft today, which is called the Manufacturing Copilot on the one side, but it's the Manufacturing Data Solutions in Fabric that we're working with. And I think that's an interesting part, as I said. So that's a solution which have a manufacturing knowledge graph inside. So having this ISO 95 standard in a data model, and where we are feeding in data from different data sources. And we just put in here a few things like ERP, quality data, MES, or PLC data. And that's, I think, the interesting part, Richard. Getting this data good together, mapping it to this data graph, and with that, we're making it available on the one side for the co-pilot. On the other side, on the long run, you can put a lot of advanced analytics on top. You can put a lot of AI solutions on top. Of course, that's the way how you have structured it, and it's getting available. Now, to get it in, one of the solutions, as I mentioned already, if you're getting OT data, that's Litmus, for example, where we are mapping this data into the MTS data solution. So that's an easy and accelerated way how we're getting data in. Otherwise, I mean, you do a lot of manual work. That's, of course, what we try to avoid. Once you have connected your data, then you map it already in. And what's then happening now with this Copilot template, actually that's translating the questions that the worker asks the system into something which he can't do, because the system is then actually transforming that natural language question into queries that queries the manufacturing graph. That's why I said, I mean, they don't need to know what's happening in the background. That's done by the system. But they're asking a question, and the system knows what to do, which kind of analysis it needs to do, how to ask, and where to find the right information in this big ISA 95 knowledge graph. And that's what's coming here. And I think one important topic is, of course, to get all this ecosystem data in here. So if we want to do the same as you have seen before with the quality, then of course it's a lot of quality data. It's data from ERP, MES, and you probably need some machine data as well. And that's how we're actually then growing the knowledge graph. So getting data in use case by use case or persona by persona. So on top of course, there's a technology solution. So this is the platform. There's a lot of components around. Then, of course, we need to create this kind of manufacturing co-pilot experience. And I think that's a quite important step, because we want the worker in the plant to use it. So we're not giving him any device and say, this is a co-pilot that you have to use. So we really need to integrate it into his daily work process, into the applications or devices that he's already using. Or the next step, and that's what we're discussing with clients now, is if you really think that's true, it's not just putting a device or application next to the worker supporting his current process. Actually, it's completely changing the process. Because today, maybe there's a process of doing issue analysis, and then you're doing a root cause analysis step by step. You have different people, then you're building a dashboard. So actually, it's a long process. We can shorten with that dramatically. So you can go from weeks into minutes and hours. So, which means it's completely changing the way people are working. And that means, of course, we need to think that's true. And I mean, everybody knows that if you're running a big ERP program, then you need to have a change management program. If we are thinking that's true, and we're talking about how you're getting manufacturing co-pilot into a production environment, you need to think about a big change program to really enable the workers. Because I think that's a big step, changing the way how they're working, changing the way how they are managed, also changing the way how maybe they are measured. And that's what we are putting on top as a change management for smart manufacturing. And I think that's quite important. And if I'm looking to the engagement in the client's project that I have seen, a lot of things which did not run well are because it was not really accepted by the workers. Also something that we learned, you need to engage them quite early, and you need to think that's true. So what is his actually day in his working life? How does it look like? How we are changing? And how does this technology just supports him and not just puts a lot of effort on top? So that's quite important. And that's what we as Avanade call our Avanade Manufacturing Copilot on Microsoft Cloud for Manufacturing. So that's a complete offering from a technology until really change management steps, helping client to go that way, because that's much more than just putting an application and having another functionality available. So that's really a journey that we're going with our clients together, and of course with the partners, as we have here Microsoft on the one side as the technology provider, Litmus as another partner, working especially on the connectivity and data mapping side. And what we're doing, and I think I mentioned it before already, it's not just the quality area that you saw before. You can actually use that in very different areas. So talking about how we're optimizing production schedule, how you're doing quality control, asset maintenance, waste reduction. And that's not just, I would say, not just theory. Even it was launched today officially. We do already have a couple of good client references and examples where we have done this. And I think that's quite interesting also for us, because we learned a lot on the potential on the one side, but also looking a little bit into how you have to position this kind of technology into a program. And one of the clients that you see here is Schaeffler, a big German industry client, where we have actually implemented first pilot. Actually, the use case behind, or the persona which was interested here, are more on the maintenance, so a machine maintenance side. So they wanted to see how they can work the operators doing machine maintenance, the data. So we're connected 3 different systems from them. And the interesting part was not just the system from one data, but the correlation of those systems, where we could really get some additional information out, which they couldn't get before. And it also included machine data here, which was quite interesting, because it not just showed what they can get out of the data, it also showed a little bit the weakness, what they couldn't get out, where they now figured out, okay, now we need to work on our data quality. So that actually brings us into a completely new discussion. But there's an interest of the guys using the co-pilot, of now also saying, okay, I want to use that, so I need to improve my data quality. So far, normally the data producer is not too much interested in that, because the consumer of the data is different than the producer. Now, if you make the data producer also to be the consumer, then there's an interest for them to say, like, okay, I need to do something to improve that. Another example that you see here is Bridgestone. Actually, the use case is different. There's really, it's about going into root cause analysis if they have anomalies in their cycle times of the products. What's the reason? What does it affect, and so on. So that's kind of root cause analysis that we're doing with the client, where actually they're also having 2 different systems connected, not related to each other yet, but we are correlating all the data, and they are able to do this root cause analysis, where one guy per line at the moment needs around 4 hours per day. Now we're trying to reduce that massively into a couple of minutes, which he can do his work together with Copilot. So I think the potential that we see here, only at this one persona, is quite huge. So I think that's what we have learned already. And there's a couple of other client cases running at the moment. And there's probably much more to come here, where we are seeing really a huge potential in the market for this kind of AI and generative AI technology in production operations. And now the question is, why work with Avanade? So that's, of course, a always good question. As we're one of the big partners and part of the family of Microsoft, we have deep insights on the one side on the Microsoft technology. So we are the launch partner for this new product. We're deeply involved into a lot of manufacturing projects and bringing together this kind of OT and IT understanding and capabilities. And I think that's one of the things that is really, really beneficial. Also, if you start your projects, it's not an IT, it's not an OT project. It needs to be things bringing together, because at the end, it only gets successful if we're really covering both sides. And then I think what is important as well is having the right partners on board, because doing this kind of OT and smart manufacturing projects, that's a question of having the right partners. It's always a partner play. And nobody can do everything by themselves. So there's so many solutions out there. And I think that's the important part, having the right partners, bringing them together and making it one solution that really fits into this to make this manufacturing co-pilot work. And make it valuable for the client, because at the end, what we need to get out is a lot of business value. What I showed in the beginning, we're talking about 10 to 20% in production optimization, quality improvements. So that's the target, not implementing something. And that's really where we are committed to and able to really have this business focus, not just on the technology side, but we are the right partner bringing that together. And of course, happy to work with all the clients around here. And with that, I'm open for having questions or comments also from your side, if there's something. And then I would be, of course, happy to meet you at our booth we're together with Microsoft at the Microsoft booth. There's an Avanade booth, and there's also the joint one for the MDS, where you can have a demo of the system. How does it look today? So to give you a real feeling, and you can compare a little bit with the video. I would say there's still a small step that we have to take from reality to video, but I think we're on a good way. And with that, thank you very much, and open for questions.